I'm lying in wet grass and mud in stupid camouflage on a Saturday morning. My arms and legs are chafed from walking in the forest for so long. I've got a fresh scrape on my knee. And to think I could have been drinking coffee with Kristen, flipping through a magazine, and taking a selfie at the spa. And also, at this very moment, I have a deer in my sights. Within just a few seconds, he will take his last breath. After all, I rarely miss. A product of the school of Dad. This is all his idea. I am against the killing of animals, and—
Jackie, why are you mumbling? Don't hesitate. Shoot before he disappears.
Hello everyone. As you've already figured out, my name is Jackie and I'm 16 years old. My father always dreamed of going hunting and fishing with his son, teaching him how to fight and play football. But since I have no brothers, only 3 younger sisters, the role of good son fell on my shoulders. When I got black belt in karate, I was allowed to stop, but I don't miss the hunting and fishing season. So it looked like we had a family in front of us. 2 males and 3 females. You can only shoot at males. One deer is standing directly behind the female and is in a bad position. The second, right in my sights. I hold my breath. He won't be my first trophy. Dad is nearby. He freezes, like me. His tongue even sticks out a little in anticipation of fresh prey. I pause and hear Dad cocking his rifle, too. And Stan, his business partner, does the same. The second deer comes out from behind the female. Apparently, we're going to leave with 2 carcasses. But not today. I shot into the air. The frightened animals hid in the forest. I didn't even look at Dad. I knew that I made him very angry. It wasn't the first time. I don't know what your usual summer vacation plans are, but for me, it was fishing. I had a feeling I would remember this one for a long time. Dad had been wanting to teach me a lesson for ruining his hunting trip on the last day of the season. I like fishing much more than hunting because you can just let fish go after you catch it. True, Dad doesn't always want to release the fish even though it's the law. He thinks he makes the rules. For him, it's not about the experience, but the result.
Jackie, why are you dragging your feet again? Get over here and help me. I did it. I caught her.
A minute later, we had reeled in a white shark. It was small, about 2.5 feet, but still a shark. Dad, that's cool. Let me snap a photo of you with it and then we'll let it go. These are endangered.
You've helped enough today. That's enough of the conservation nonsense when you're around me.
He loaded the fish into a saltwater tank and we drove home. We had a new home ready for her, a huge underground aquarium. It cost an incredible amount of money and has been waiting for a suitable tenant for a long time. But even in such conditions, how long would a white shark cub last in captivity? Did my father really not understand this? He threw her a fish, but the shark wouldn't eat it. Then he took a couple of photos and videos, tried to feed it again and again, to no avail. After a couple of hours, he completely lost all interest in the shark. His work called him and he had to leave for 7 to 10 days. What should I do with the shark? How do I feed it?
I don't know. Try feeding it the cat. Her meow has annoyed me for a long time. Okay, don't be so angry. I'm just joking. Don't worry, nothing's going to happen to the shark before I get back. But later, we'll make some shark soup. Have you ever tried it?
He looked at the fish in the aquarium that he had just sentenced to death and added,
"And we'll get its head stuffed. Where should I hang it? I don't think it would look right next to the grizzly bear head."
I stood with my mouth open for a few more seconds until he left the house. I stayed with the shark. I began reading aloud various facts about sharks, which I had found on the internet. Mine looked at me, with one eye or the other, depending on which direction it was facing. It even seemed like it understood me. I was very worried that Dad had not been able to feed her, and so I brought it fresh fish. I tapped the fish on the glass, and my white shark swam over to me. At one point, I lost my balance, and my whole hand dipped into the water, right in front of her mouth. She took the fish and swam along my hand. I could feel her smooth skin. Good girl. That's a good shark. Eat the fish. Do you want me to bring you more? After 3 days had passed, she seemed completely tame. She reacted to my voice and took food only from me. One of my sisters threw her a fish, but the shark wouldn't eat it. My father called one day to tell me that he was coming back early. He asked me how his catch was doing. He had found an excellent soup recipe for our exotic dinner. One more day, and the head of my pet shark would be on my father's wall. I couldn't sleep and called a friend. Dylan was at my house in 15 minutes. His mouth hung open as he looked at it.
You've got white shark. A white shark. Can't believe it.
Get a hold of yourself. We're going to save her. I lured her to the edge of the tank. You wouldn't believe how hard it was to pull this baby by the tail. We spent even more time carrying salt water from the aquarium to the tank that my dad had used to bring the shark in. It was going back in that same tank. We left for the ocean early in the morning and released the shark to where it belonged. Goodbye! Grow up to be a good girl and never hunt people. I wish that I could have swam away with her. I had no idea what I was going to tell Dad. My younger sister said that at first, my father looked around for a long time in the water and figured that the shark had died and was lying somewhere behind the reef at the bottom. He was trying to decide who to send down to get it when I walked in. She's already in the ocean, Dad. He was furious. He was cursing and yelling in rage. Then he asked whether I had hurt myself and offered to order pizza for dinner. The next day, he told me that I didn't have to go fishing and hunting with him if I didn't want to, and patted me on the shoulder. That was the highest manifestation of his love. Apparently, he understood me. And that's it. Thanks for listening to my story.
Hi everyone, I'm Chris. I'm always surrounded by beautiful women, and guys envy me because I have a dream job, but I'm not a rock star or a Hollywood actor. I just sniff girls for money. I'll give you the rundown of how I do it. My story began the moment I failed my college entrance exam. I walked home not knowing how to deliver the bad news to my parents. Along the way, I took a flyer from a guy who was handing them out. It suddenly occurred to me that I might end up handing out flyers too. For a whole week I was depressed, spending time on the computer, drinking Coke and eating chips. I finally decided to pull myself together. I opened a job search site and started looking. I ended up signing up for an interview at a pharmaceutical company. At the time, I only had a vague idea of what the job might be. When I Googled it, I found out that I might have to stand on a conveyor line and inspect an infinite number of batches of tablets as they travel along it. Fun! The next morning, I arrived at the company office. I was asked to fill out several questionnaires, then a standard interview. They became interested in my medical record, especially the point about me possibly having hyperosmia, an increased sensitivity to smells. When a person has hyperosmia, they can smell better than other people. So they offered me an interesting job with a probationary period. The position was called a deodorant tester. My task was to smell jars of aromas and describe the smells. I would say things like, "This fragrance contains notes of green tea, like the air on the plantations of Sri Lanka after rain." In the end, I was considered a suitable candidate, so I got the job and was in heaven from then on because I and 5 other colleagues with the same ability had to sniff the armpits of beautiful girls for hours at a time. It's impossible for a machine to replicate the human sense of smell because people ultimately evaluate the result. So a human tester determines how well deodorants mask the smell of sweat depending on weather, physical activity, time of day, and other factors. For 24 hours, the girls were put through training worthy of astronauts. They swam in the pool, ran on a treadmill, lifted weights, were exposed to different temperature conditions, slept, drank a lot of water, and tried different foods. After each activity, it was my turn to do my job, because I had to check how effective the deodorant was at repelling sweat and how its scent presented under different circumstances. After a test, I would fill out a report, and I felt like a superhero with super smell. At first, it was awkward for me to sniff strangers. It embarrassed me a little. But when the women standing in a row with raised arms would smile at me, I realized this was my dream job. I was smelling this one girl, and she kept putting her arm down because she was ticklish. I tried to raise her arm to smell it again, and she just laughed. Her laugh was so contagious. That's how my girlfriend Samantha and I met. My work felt like a party, and I thought I had found my calling. My friends who got into college were jealous of me. They would constantly ask about my work, where I was always surrounded by beautiful women and got paid a high salary. What could be better? Of course, sometimes my girlfriend gets jealous, but it's a job and nothing more. The job of my dreams. Where do you work? What is your dream job? Write it in the comments.